Hi there. In this tutorial, we will talk about CSS in React. We can use various ways the CSS in our React application. For example, if we need to use inline CSS, then we can use, like I am creating a p tag. Now let's apply inline CSS. To apply inline CSS, at first we have to create the CSS. So we have to create the CSS in as a JavaScript way. That means style is equal to color is equal to red. For example, if I want to apply the background color, that means color, I have to put the camel case format. That means this is the regular JavaScript way to create a CSS. So now I have this CSS in my style variable. So let's put this CSS in a style format. Now I have to put the style variable. Now if I save my file, I can see my p tag got the style, or I can put the style format here and copy the file, copy the CSS directly here. It will do exactly the same style as before. Now if I refresh my file, I can see this is the same style. This is inline wise style. Now let's see how can we use another way, that means the component Y style. That means or a component level or a global level style. This time we will not create a style in our regular JavaScript way. Instead we will create a vanilla CSS way. For that I have to create a file. For example, already app.css has created a little bit style for our React project. So let's see how can we access this CSS style. So style class name is capital A double P app. So let's see, remove the style. Now to apply the style, at first I need to import this file in my app folder or app file. So for that, import everything from app.css. I have to type the full name. When we use any JavaScript file or TypeScript file, we do not have to type the extension, because our webpack configured automatically add the extension name. But when we use other file instead of the CSS, JS or TS file, we have to mention our extension. So I import my CSS file app.css in my top, and now to apply the CSS, the app CSS is a class, so I have to use class name property, and now I have to use the same name, that means app. If I save my file, I can see my text is in a center, because in my app.css I have text align center. That means this way I can put regular CSS file into a separate file, then we can import that file into our component. This is also known as a module CSS. Another type of CSS is a global CSS. So instead of create a separate file, we can create a single file that holds all our CSS, and then we have to import this CSS file into our main CSS file, because this file is the root file for all my component. That means all the component will be attached with this file. That means all the CSS attached in this file will be available on every component. So this is a global CSS. This is a regular CSS file. Beside that, we have some another CSS like CSS in JS. For that, we have two well-known component. One is style component CSS, another one is emotion style component. So what is the difference between them? Actually, emotion style component is lot more popular than style component. So we can use any of them. So later we have a framework like Material UI, Bootstrap. These are component based framework, and another one is a popular, then is a Tailwind CSS. It is a utility based framework. In my CSS, in my React project, I use the Material UI. So let's see how can we use the emotion style. So for that, I have to install this package. I have to go to my code editor, and if I go to another terminal, then I have to install that package. Install add emotion / react, and then add emotion / style. This is the, if we go to the npm library of style, then you will see this is the command to install. We have to install these two library to work with emotion style component. So while our component installing, let's go to our app component. Now this time we don't need extra CSS or inline CSS. Remove this CSS. Now when we use in a style component, we have two ways to create the CSS. Let's at first import the style from the emotion style package. So import style from emotion / style, emotions style. Now before we use the style, we have to create the style component. That means, let's see, constant my_div. It will be styled.div. Now I can create two Y. One is the style component Y. For that, I have to use backtick, and now actually it is not a style, it is styled. Now I have to type regular CSS like color red, then background color gray. Now I am creating a style component. Now I have to import this style component div and wrap the div with my app. Now if I save my file, I can see my text file is red and background is gray. So this is one way. Or let's text align center. If I save my file, I can see my text is aligned in the center. This is a regular CSS file in a JSS file. This type of style is called CSS in JSS. Another way, let's comment out this line. Another way to create the CSS file, instead of tag, I can create regular JavaScript way. That means remove the text. Now it is a regular JavaScript format, so I have to wrap with, and instead of colon I have to use the comma. So this one again, and this one again. Now I have to remove the dash with capital C, and again A with A. If I save my file, because this component is already assigned in my file, so this time color will be white. If I save my file, I can see my style applied as regular in style UI. So in another way, in my tutorial I always use the material UI, because the Tailwind CSS is the utility based framework. That means I have to write CSS for my every component manually, but material UI has component based framework. That means all the style already created for us, but material UI is a lot more customizable than a Bootstrap framework. So I use material UI for my project all the time. So let's see how can we use material UI. If you go to the material UI website, you have to use the material UI like npm install at mui/material UI, and then I have to install other two packages like emotion/react and emotion/style. So these two packages is dependency for the material UI package. So if you go to the material UI website, you see this command to install the material UI framework. These two libraries is already installed in my packages, so I can skip or I can use install again. So when we material UI has emotion style framework installed, so I can use style component in my material UI project too. So it says that error. That means actually I type it will be MUI. So go to the MUI MUI. It takes some time to install the packages. So let's see how can we use the material UI. For that, remove this text. Actually material UI has style component available. We can use the style component from our material UI package too. So let's ignore the file. To use the material UI, I have to button component. We can see that material UI has already suggests that it has pre-built button component. So if I tap, my button component will be available. Let's see, submit, and if I save my file, I can use import this way, or I can use this one. If I save my file, go to my browser, refresh my page. Actually it takes some times. Now my button is available. Now if I add button variant is outline, I can see my button appears nicely. This is not a tutorial about material UI. This tutorial is about CSS, so I do not go to the material UI example or stuff. So if you need to learn the material UI, you can go to the website, or you can learn from another tutorial or another channel. So let's see, we will in the next time we will talk about another topic.